Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Mayor of Carlton to appoint Councillor Lindsay McCarthy Calvert.
Thank you, everyone. Please take your seats. Good evening, members, ladies and gentlemen. May I remind everyone that that's attending this meeting that the proceedings will be broadcast live on YouTube and capable of repeated viewing. So thank you. I'm now going to ask my chaplain, Reverend Tanya Mangetti, to say prayers.
I'd like to open prayers this evening with a poem by John Rodell. I can't make the world be peaceful. I can't stall tanks from roaring down streets. I can't prevent children from having to hide in bunkers. I can't convince the news to stop turning war into a video game. I can't silence the sound of bombs tearing neighbourhoods apart. I can't transform a guided missile into a bouquet of flowers. I can't make a warmonger have an ounce of empathy. I can't convince ambassadors to quit playing truth or dare. I can't deflect a sniper's bullet from turning a wife into a widow. I can't stave off a country from being reduced to ash and to rubble. I can't do any of that. The only thing I can do is to love the next person I encounter without any strings or conditions, to love my neighbour so fearlessly that it causes a ripple that stretches from one horizon to the next. I can't force peace upon the world, but I can become a force of peace in the world, because sometimes all it takes is a candle, a single candle lit in the darkness, to start a movement. Lord, make me a candle of comfort in this world. Let me burn with peace. And with these words, I invite you all to rest in the silence of your hearts. You may wish to close your eyes or hold a soft gaze. Bring your attention to that place which is the purest and most profound part of your being, so that you become centered and fully present. And from this place of stillness, let us call upon with intention a wisdom, love, and peace that is beyond human understanding. As we gather here today in this council meeting, we are acutely aware of the challenges that surround us in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. The cost of living crisis, the ongoing war in Ukraine, the pressing issue of climate change, and the lasting mental and physical health repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. Recent events, including the eruption of hostilities in Israel, weigh heavily on our minds and in our prayers. In the face of our powerlessness, let us take a moment to center ourselves in this turbulent world and to connect with our shared humanity. We may not have the power to stop wars raging, but we do have the capacity to make a difference by working towards peace within our own minds, within our own homes, our places of work, our neighbourhood, our community. We can be a source of compassion and understanding, recognising that each and every one of us is navigating our own struggles, fears, and uncertainties. Let us be those candles of comfort and peace in our own lives, and may our collective efforts illuminate the path to a more peaceful world. As we focus on our beloved borough of Castle Point, with its diverse population and rich tapestry of experiences, let us offer our prayers and hopes for the work of this council. We pray that the decisions made here foster peace, understanding, and cooperation among the people of our community. May we be guided by wisdom, empathy, and the shared goal of building a more harmonious and compassionate Castle Point. May Mayor Lindsay McCarthy Calvert be blessed in her overseeing of this meeting and all her work in service to this borough. I end with a translation of the Gayatri Mantra from the Rig Vedas, the first sacred canonical text of Hinduism. You who are the source of all power, whose rays illuminate this world, illuminate also my heart, so that it too can do your work.
Thank you, Tanya. It was lovely. So, do we have any apologies for absence, Ms. Horgan? Oh. Sprinting round. We should wait for you, don't worry. Sorry.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Campagna, Councillor Jones, Councillor Mountford, Councillor Savage, Councillor Payne, Councillor Harvey, and Councillor Bizzle.
Thank you. Item 2, are there any declarations of interest? No. Can we confirm on the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 26th of July 2023 agreed as an accurate and correct record of the meeting? Thank you. Okay, so I trust everyone has had a good summer break. Welcome back, and I'm just going to run through a few things to advise you that I've issued the following message on social media yesterday in advance of lighting up our building at Castle Point last night. Castle Point Borough Council is lighting up its office building blue and white to acknowledge the humanitarian crisis emerging in Israel following the attack by Hamas on Saturday, and as a show of respect to the victims and the families of all of those affected. Early today, I had a meeting to plan for the school's Christmas concert. That's going to be held on the 7th of December, if you'd like to put that in your diary, and please attend if you're able to, please. On Sunday the 12th of November, Remembrance Sunday, we'll be remembering all those who've died in armed conflicts. The details of Remembrance Sunday services will be circulated, and I encourage everyone to attend if you're able. Just to let you know, I've had a lovely summer, and I've been continuing with attending some events through the Mayor's office, and I was delighted to attend Canvey Miniature Railway, their charity day, which they hold annually, and the monies raised on that day go to the Mayor's charity. They raised £340 for Little Havens this year, and many thanks to Brian Poor for organising the event and making myself and my daughter Erin very welcome. She enjoyed riding the trains. Again, I encourage anyone who's got small ones to go over there. It's a lovely thing to do and a very cost-effective day out with the family. I attended the Canvey Island Heritage Centre's military exhibition, and thanks to David Thorndike and all the volunteers who do tremendous work preserving the archives there. I'm looking forward to returning for my fish and chip lunch and Christmas carols in December. Thank you to Zena Osterberg for inviting me to the Salvation Army Heritage Open Day at Hadley Rare Breeds Farm. Again, a lovely day out if you've got children. I encourage you all to go up there, and it was wonderful learning about all the origins of the farm and how it was set up, and obviously enjoying the beautiful green space that we have up there by the castle. I also had the pleasure of attending a few Macmillan coffee mornings, raising money for the amazing service that the Macmillan nurses provide. A special mention to Naomi and Graham Pilkington, who host their annual Macmillan Coffee Morning at home, and they raised a record-breaking £3,922 during their coffee morning this year. So congratulations to them, and they make wonderful efforts to contribute to that. And finally, I had the great honour of representing Castle Point for the return of the Pearly Kings and Queens Society Costermongers Harvest Festival at the City Guild Hall this year. It was a wonderful event, and we did our parade down to Marylebone Church for a service there. So thank you to everybody that's invited me to events, and I look forward to attending more before the year is out. Moving on to item 5, we have a few questions to get through this evening. We have received valid questions, and they're set out in your agenda papers. The questions are to the Deputy Leader and Leader of the Council, and can I remind everyone of the procedure that the question is asked and answered. There's no discussion on the question or the answer. Questioners 1, 2, 3 and 5 have asked for their questions to be asked on their behalf, and question 4 will be asked in person. The Chief Executive will ask the first 3 questions to Councillor Gibson, as Deputy Leader, to reply for the first one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, members. Question number 1 from Tim Copsey. Will the Deputy Leader of the Council please report the key points of the recent meeting with the Housing Minister, particularly with respect to the weight to be assigned by planning inspectors to withdrawn local plans?
Deputy Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As Deputy Leader of the Council, in the absence of the Leader of the Council, who was away from the office on holiday, I met Rachel McLean, MP, the Minister of State for Housing and Planning, on the 12th of September 2023. Councillor Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources, the Chief Executive and the Head of Place and Policy were also present. The meeting with the Minister was arranged through Rebecca Harris's office, who I'm pleased to say shares our concerns about our planning inspectors of viewing the evidence that supported our withdrawn plan. It was an opportunity for us to reassure the Minister that we were pressing on with the Castle Point plan and the engagement with the local community throughout. Whilst the Minister reiterated the government policy of ensuring local plans are in place as soon as possible and having an up-to-date local plan is the best way to defend against speculative development in the Greenbelt, she also stressed what constitutes a material consideration is down to the decision maker. Officers have met with government officials who have restated that line. This therefore remains a concern, particularly the use by developers of the Greenbelt assessments that were part of the evidence for the withdrawn plan. This is being addressed. At the meeting, I also asked a question of a government official. The question was, if we left a sound plan unadopted and never withdrew it, would we be in a worse position with speculative Greenbelt applications? His reply was yes. Thank you for your question, Mr. Copsey. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Question 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From Sean Quartermain. On behalf of Friends of Canby Lake, I would like to ask, at the recent Friends of Canby Lake meeting, we passed a resolution calling on Castle Point Borough Council, Canby Town Council and the other relevant bodies to commit to restoring Canby Lake's ability to operate as a recreational fishery. Some of our members had fished Canby Lake for decades before the recent ecological disaster which devastated the lake's wildlife. Will your administration support our resolution and add the Borough Council's support for restoring Canby Lake's ability to operate as a recreational fishery?
I believe the Leader, Councillor Blackwell, will answer.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Mayor. May I first say thank you for allowing me to stay seated. Thank you for your question, Mr. Quartermain, which I will answer in my reply to Councillor Skip at the next item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Question 3.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Question from Michael Dixon. Hadley Community Group has just held its 4th successful annual summer fair, attracting thousands of visitors with a full roster of entertainment. They are to be congratulated for providing this at no cost to the taxpayer, asking only for a voluntary donation of £1 to £2 entry. The event also returned a profit to be invested back into the Hadley community. Is it correct that the council is charging £25 for a family with 2 children and £32 for those with 3 to its fireworks event? When first announced, this event was allocated between £17,000 and £25,000 of money paid for out of residents' pockets through their council tax. Can the leader confirm that to then charge an entrance fee is effectively taking money from residents a second time, especially as it would appear Pinnacle are fronting sponsorship for the event?
Thank you. Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. I congratulate the Hadley Community Group on their success of its summer fair. You appear to be making a comparison between the Hadley Summer Fair and a large public firework event. This is comparing apples and pears, as it's not a valid comparison. These are 2 different events. For example, you do not need to engage a professional firework display operator, which is a significant cost for a community group summer fair. Cabinet identified a budget of £17,000 to support delivery of an event and the contingency to provide certainty that the event would go ahead. Pinnacle PSG has contributed £5,000, and I'd like to publicly thank them for their sponsorship. But this does not reduce significantly the cost for delivering the event. Across Essex, most public firework events are charged. The charges for Castle Point fireworks stand comparison. We have a duty for the public purse to charge for discretionary events like this one. In addition, recognising the impact of increasing prices of the cost of living, I'm delighted to announce the council has made available 100 family tickets through local charities to allow families who are struggling with the cost of living crisis to attend the event. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to question 5. Question 4. Okay, and question 4. Would Mr. Fort like to come and ask the question?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. My first question to the Leader of the Council is as follows. It's important that where Council members make a decision to refuse a planning application based on their interpretation of the material planning considerations and then the applicant takes it to appeal, the Council prepares as robust as a defence as possible. The Council should submit to the Inspector representations and further evidence to back up the justifications for the reasons for refusal. Can the Leader explain why, at a recent appeal on our refusal for a flatted development in Benfleet High Road, the Council presented no further evidence and its case for defence relied solely on the officer's report attached to the original application? And can the Leader also confirm that in any future appeals, the Council will commit to defending their reasons for refusal by presenting a robust justification of their refusal to the Inspector? And my second question is as follows. Can the Leader of the Council please confirm why recent Audit Committee meetings have not been recorded or webcast to the public, contrary to efforts to improve transparency and accountability of the Council? That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fort. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question 1. Thank you, Mr. Fort. A member of the Council asked a similar question recently. The reply reflects the practice of many years that where an application is refused, the officers draft the report with the appeal in mind. Under written reps, we do not have to submit any other documents. Indeed, they are not necessary given the robust officer's report. Thank you for your question. Question 2. Meeting of the Council, the Cabinet and the committees are open to public attend, except where personal or confidential matters are being considered. There is no obligation on councils to webcast or record meetings. Indeed, many do not. The Council's constitution states that only meetings of the Cabinet, Council, Development Management Committee are webcast. The Audit Committee, held on the 12th of July, was webcast. The extraordinary meeting of the Audit Committee held on the 24th of July dealt with an item of private business, so would not be webcast. Staff resources were not available to support the meeting on the 28th of September. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor. And question 5.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question number 5 from John Stone. Why did the Leader of Castle Point Borough Council decide not to send a Canvey Island Independent Party councillor to represent the island at a meeting with the Minister of State for Planning and leave it up to representatives from the mainland People's Independent Party instead.
Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you for your question, Mr Stone. I referred to Councillor Warren Gibson earlier reply. Councillor Gibson attended the meeting with the Minister as Deputy Leader of the Council representing Castle Point. That's what a Deputy Leader does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Item 6, questions have been received from councillors and valid questions are set out in your agenda papers. Questions are to the Leader of the Council. May I again remind everyone that the procedure, the question is asked and answered. No discussion on the question or the answer. Councillor Mumford, would you like to put your question to the Leader?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question 1. At the last council meeting on Wednesday the 26th of July 2023, I asked a question regarding the rejection of the community bid made on behalf of residents for funding of an outdoor gym at Tarpots Recreation Ground. Leader, you replied that the project would be reviewed and revisited with the project suggested by members and a report be made to Cabinet in September. It is disappointing that the outdoor gym at Tarpots Recreation Ground has not secured funding. May I ask how the testing of public opinion was undertaken for both this and the successful bids reported to Cabinet last month? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Leader?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm handing that over to Tom Gibson to answer that. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our priority when proceeding with this project was to enhance the community aspects of our parks and open spaces. This is why the multi-use games area at John Burroughs took priority in terms of the allocation of funds as a flagship project. We've also looked to augment the accessibility of our existing community assets, both in terms of council-owned assets and those of resident-led organisations. This is why we also included the lane of a path at Thundersea Common to facilitate disabled access, and the Sensory Garden at Richmond Park as a space for both our children to come together to learn about nature and for elderly, perhaps lonely residents to gather and socialise. This is in addition to the general mental health benefits that such Sensory Gardens are known to provide. The provision of up to 30 picnic benches in our parks will also greatly enhance the social and community value of our open spaces. It's my understanding that the equipment for the suggested outdoor gyms alone would cost several £1,000s for anything approaching a good facility. This is without planning, installation and maintenance costs. It is likely that, to proceed with such a project, will mean having to make cuts elsewhere. For example, to the community groups who so often struggle for funding and who we've been able to help through this fund. We would suggest that we need to focus on making sure our current facilities are operating at their full potential in terms of community value, before we look to expensive new facilities for which there may be little uptake. The years of neglect from previous council administrations and of our community assets necessitates our taking this approach, and this scheme by no means marks the end of this administration's commitment to enhance our open spaces for the benefit of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Skip, would you like to ask your question? I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Mumford.
Question 2. At the council meeting on Wednesday the 30th of November 2022, council unanimously agreed a motion calling on the Borough Council to investigate the opportunity to mark the sad passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. More than 1 year later, there are no visible signs in the borough. May I ask what action has been taken to commemorate the late Queen's long service?
Leader?
Thank you, Councillor Mumford. At present, there is no suitable memorial has been identified to commemorate the late Queen Elizabeth II. I hope one of the projects being funded through the Public Spaces and Play Space Fund will provide a fitting memorial. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, sorry, Councillor Skip, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. What steps are Castle Point Borough Council taking to ensure that the Common Liaison Committee of the Canvey Islands Town Council is reinstated so that the issues and decisions relating to the Canvey Lake can be publicly scrutinised?
Thank you, Councillor. Leader?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Common Liaison Committee is a committee of the Canvey Island Town Council, and the question should be directed to the Town Council. However, The Borough Council is working with the Town Council to reconvene the committee to ensure that the Borough Council is fully represented and active in the work of the committee. I thank you for your question, but I also would like to remind Councillor Skipp, being a past member of the Common Liaison Committee, was that when Canvey Island Town Council was asked by the previous Tory administration to take over Canvey Lake, one of the conditions was that there had to be a management committee set up. Now, this management committee had to be 50% Conservative councillors and 50% town councillors. That committee sat right up until COVID, and the Tory members on that committee fully supported all the work which that committee agreed to do when it came to the maintenance of Canvey Lake. So I find it very hypocritical when I see this Conservative Party now trying to use Canvey Lake as a political football, and they should really be working together to try and improve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Question 3 from Councillor Mrs Egan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I have 2 questions. My first question to the Leader of the Council. Recent reports have identified the long-term harms suffered by children forced to live in emergency and temporary accommodation. I'm sure the Leader agrees it should be a priority for this Council to focus on these children and how we should address this crisis. I'm aware of a number of social housing units are to be provided on land to the rear of Hart Road, but this is only after the applicant won an appeal following the Council's refusal of planning permission. Can the Leader therefore please confirm how many people are currently on the housing waiting list, together with how many families we have in temporary accommodation, please?
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your questions. Question 1, the Council has 104 households in temporary accommodation at the end of the quarter this year. 73 with children, on which half are in private sector leased properties by the Council. We have 470 households on the housing needs waiting list, with 449 being in priority need. The Council continues to review all land in its ownership for the opportunity to develop additional social housing. 7 units across 3 garage sites are due to be presented to the Cabinet next week. A further garage site and areas of housing land are under review. Other assets and land held by the General Fund will be reviewed for suitable use, but it is recognised that these will not deliver the required number of units needed. Other opportunities will be explored, such as purchase and renovate of homes within the borough, or to purchase and convert other buildings to create increased capacity to provide both long-term accommodation and high-quality temporary homes that meet the needs of households. I would just also like to go on and say that the Leader of the Opposition mentioned the application on Hart Road. That was turned down purely because it's on Greenbelt. This Council will always fight and stop overdevelopment on Greenbelt. Unlike the previous Conservative administration, which wanted to destroy our Greenbelt with 5,000 houses, we will stand against that and always will be. But this administration is committed to social housing, but in the right location on brownfield sites. And that's what we will do, and that's what we are committed to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes. Yes. Indeed, yes.
Can the Leader please identify land under Council ownership it's identified as available to build the social housing we require to meet this need, and how the Council envisages meeting the shortfall, given that our urban brownfield land too often fails to provide affordable or social housing provision due to viability issues? Hopefully this will confirm we have a plan to meet this need and are not relying on social housing being brought forward through appeal decisions such as Hart Road. I believe you have answered the question before I answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Egan. Very efficient, Ada. And question for Councillor Mrs Thornton, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me remain seated.
Indeed.
When questioned by members in early September, officers confirmed that at that time they were not aware of any rack in our leisure centres, halls or other council buildings, but that given recent concerns about its presence in public buildings, the necessary assurances would be sought. Can the leader now please confirm what surveys have been carried out on rack in our suspected buildings, which buildings this relates to, and when is the deadline for when we should know? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Thornton. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it is a very important question, of course. It's been in the press for quite a lot of times. We have reviewed the age and types of construction used in our council housing stock, and there's no properties that would require a survey to be undertaken, as they do not consist of this construction method. A desktop survey has been undertaken in relation to the rest of the council's building, and at this time there's no cause for concern. However, the situation is being kept under review, so I thank you for your question.
Thank you, Leader. So, item 7, there's no business from the last meeting. Item 8, there's no urgent decisions taken by Cabinet. Item 9, there are no recommendations from Cabinet. And item 10, there are no references from Scrutiny or Policy and Scrutiny. Item 11, the Transformation Matters interim arrangements for scheme of delegations, and I will ask the Chief Executive to present the report before us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, this is the first of 3 reports which I bring to you this evening on the theme of transformation and modernisation of the Council. This first report asks that the Council agrees to amend the officer delegations in the current Constitution to give effect to new roles and responsibilities created as a result of the Council's transformation programme, those roles which will take effect from 1st November. A full review of the Constitution is underway and is proposed to be brought to Council at its meeting of the 29th of November. So these proposals are interim in nature and will be reviewed once again. But to not make the changes now would mean that our Constitution is out of step with our decision-making framework and therefore would paralyse the work of the organisation. So the proposed changes, Madam Mayor, are set out in the report. There is one amendment which I would like to bring to members' attention. In the table on page 3 of the report, under head of Environment, page 52 of the Constitution, I'd like to add the words "and save for those delegations listed under the subheading Environmental Health, which should be allocated to the Director, People and Communities." And members, with that small amendment, I would invite you to approve the recommendations set out in the report.
Thank you. Who will move the recommendations?
Move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blackwell. And do we have a seconder? Thank you. Is that agreed? Are the recommendations agreed? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 12, the changes to the Borough Council's electoral cycle, and I will again ask the Chief Executive to present the report before us.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Members, this is my second report of the evening. As all-out elections are scheduled to take place in May 2024, there is an opportunity for members to agree a change to the electoral cycle to move from 1/3 with a fallow year when the county council elections take place to a 4-yearly cycle with all seats up for election at the conclusion of that 4-year period. There are pros and cons to this proposed change, and those are set out in the report, but ultimately, members, this is a wholly political decision for you. There is a specific process to be followed. Public consultation would need to be undertaken, and the form of that consultation, as proposed, is set out in Appendix 1 to the report. And additionally, the decision would need to be taken to a special meeting of Council, which is suggested as being the 31st of January of next year. If members are minded to agree with the proposals, then I commend the recommendations to you for approval.
Thank you. Leader, are you moving the recommendations?
Move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
And Deputy Leader, are you seconding?
I'll second the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Council, the recommendations are set out in the report. Are these agreed? Thank you. Item 13, the report of the leader by... the The report of the Leader of the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to be short. I'll start my report by congratulating Castle Point Leisure in reaching the finals of the National Fitness Awards in 3 categories. Waterside Farm Leisure Centre has reached the final in the South Regional Centre of the Year and Local Authority Centre of the Year, whilst Runnymede Leisure Centre are finalists in the Customer Service Award category. Reaching the final of these prestigious awards after winning in other categories in recent years shows how fortunate we are to have both Waterside Farm Leisure Centre and Runnymede Leisure Centre in our community. We are so lucky to have so much professional and dedicated staff at our leisure centres, and they need to take the credit for this achievement and all their hard work. So I wish them all the very best, and I'm sure we all will when it gets to the final. I would like to update members on our key partners Acela. On the 28th of September, Joint Committee of Acela met and agreed to change the name to South East Essex Councils as a part of a refreshed focus on growth linked to the proposed devolution deal and the economic opportunities in the Thames Estuary Growth Board and the Thames Freeport. The Thames Estuary is the UK's #1 growth opportunity, and the Freeport is a multi-module logistic manufacturing hub right on our doorstep, creating opportunities for jobs, skills, but we need transport infrastructure to unlock these opportunities. And this has brought renewed focus on transport issues across South Essex. This includes Castle Point. One of the many frustrations we have with Essex County Council is its inability to deliver strategic transport projects. But we have put forward that Canvey Third Access is included as a project which devolved transport powers could deliver as a part of the Great Essex Devolution Deal. As I have said before, it will take a scale of investment which only government can leverage in order to make this ambition a reality. We can't do it ourselves. We need to be part of the partnership approach, which is why we are part of the South East Essex Councils, and we also are signatories to the Transport East, which has direct links into the Department of Transport. Something as big as this never going to be easy or quick win, but we have to keep up our profile in all these regions and national agendas, and that's what we're doing. Even if devolution isn't agreed, we're having a conversation with representatives from the Department of Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, and will continue to argue that access to jobs and skills for investment in transport is the best way forward for our borough. As you know, earlier this evening, our transformation programme goes live on November the 1st. I wish good luck to all our new organisation. And last to mention, in the summer, we announced an exciting new programme of events. The programme starts with Castle Point fireworks on the 4th of November, and tickets are on sale now. So far, more than 500 tickets have been sold. I encourage everybody to come along and enjoy the great fun. And buy a ticket, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. Okay. Is the report noted? Thank you. Item 14, we have a notice of motion. Councillor Walter would like to put forward your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Conservative Borough Council welcomes the government's ban on the use of risk of young persons to Castle Point and the litter nuisance from spent canisters as a blight on our parks and open spaces. The nitrous oxide. I'm carrying the can on this one. I reserve the right to reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have, I believe, Councillor Mumford, you're seconding the motion? Shall I read out the motion as it's written for clarity? Castle Point Borough Council welcomes the government ban on the possession of nitrous oxide as its recreational use poses a serious health risk to young people in Castle Point, and the litter nuisances from spent canisters is a blight on our parks and open spaces. Is that correct? Lovely. So Councillor Mumford seconds. Any questions or comments? Councillor Blackwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I quite happily support Councillor Waters. This is not just a nuisance of rubbish. This is a dangerous nuisance to our kids. And like Councillor Waters, I've seen these scattered all over the place. And you know what? These youngsters using this may think it's funny to use, but they don't realise the long-term damage it could do to their health. It can actually kill youngsters. And I think it should be not only banned, it should be banned from being allowed to purchase online where they get most of it. So I think this is not a political motion. This is a motion we should all support. And I thank Councillor Waters for bringing it to this council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gibson?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, pretty much what the leader said. I fully support Councillor Water with this motion. There's just no need for these canisters. They're there for a simple reason. They make a mess, they cause a nuisance, and I fully support it. It shouldn't be political. A little bit disappointed at the time it's taken the government to actually implement the ban, but we are where we are, so yeah. Well done, Clive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We all done? Okay. So may I have a show of hands in favour of the motion? That looks a unanimous vote.
That's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you, Ms Horgan.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
I beg your pardon. Oh, we have a no. Are you abstaining?
Yeah, just abstaining because the government went against the advice of its own advisors, so I can't support it.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Okay, item 15. I believe there are two petitions to be presented this evening. The first is from Councillor Mumford. Would you like to bring your petition forward?
I'm presenting this on behalf of the residents who are asking for the council to reverse its decision not to fund the outdoor gym at Tarport's recreation ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And we have a petition from Councillor Walter. It's okay to remain seated. I think Ms Horgan's going to collect that. Thank you. Thank you very much. So both the petitions are acknowledged. Thank you very much. Item 16. Recommendations to council transforming together appointment. I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering what that second petition was for.
Sorry, yes. Would Councillor Walter like to speak?
Yes, this is for the unsightly and damage that would be caused by converting what is a lovely little retirement enclave of bungalows into a. They want to put a second story on it. Quite honestly, over the 41 years that I've been in Castle Point, and this is just at the end of my road, you know, it's such a lovely little development, and it's mainly there for.
Councillor Walter, it's the petition is just to be noted, so we just wanted to know what the petition was for. So I understand the petition is a residents' petition.
Residents for Steeple Heights,
a development issue.
That are all objecting to this development.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Thank you. The petition's noted. Item 16, recommendations to council transforming together and the appointment of a statutory 151 officer, and the chief executive will present this report.
Members will be pleased to note that this is my final report of the evening. Following a rigorous assessment and the unanimous approval of the staff appointments and review panel, I'm delighted to commend to you the appointment of Lance Wasco as Assistant Director of Finance and Procurement, which contains within it the statutory function of Section 151 officer, which requires the decision of full council and is therefore, members, the recommendations that I would invite you to approve.
Thank you. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to say yes, I would approve the recommendation.
Thank you. And Deputy Leader, were you seconding the recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll happily second the recommendation, as I actually chaired the staff appointments panel. It was a cross-party panel, and I think it was very unanimous that Lance will be the right man for the job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, the recommendation is set out in the report. Is it agreed to approve the permanent appointment of Lance Wasco to carry out the duties and responsibilities of the Section 151 statutory officer? Is the recommendation agreed? Agreed. Okay, that's it. Suddenly, all of a sudden, we're at the end. So there's no other business to be dealt with this evening. Thank you very much for your attendance and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand while the Mayor leaves the chamber.